Strike. Yeah, that's right. We're talking Strike today here on Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, including Superman casting news and dun, 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 Dead Reckoning Part 1. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, the premier flagship and international podcast of LRM Online and the Genreverse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and I've got with me Dose Lads to talk about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yes.
You really threw me off with that intro. First off,
I really did. I was changing it up.
I was enjoying like your Mission Impossible dance. You're like, dun, dun,
yeah.
Little shoulder
You
bop.
got to do the shoulder dance.
Gotta do the shoulder bop.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
I'm
let's do
actually
it.
also interested in this might be the last week we have news for the next year. So I'm excited to dive into the news and really just relish it, roll around in it, get to know it really well.
Yummy.
This
Tasty.
is going to be, but before we do that, of course, we're going to be talking about a little movie that could, and I don't know. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm really interested in thoughts because I feel like I learned a lot about myself while watching this movie. So let's hop into it, Jonesy. Do your thing.
All right. Ethan Hunt and the IMF team must track down a terrifying new weapon that threatens all of humanity if it falls into the wrong hands. With control of the future and the fate of the world at stake, a deadly race around the globe is about to begin. Confronted by a mysterious, all-powerful enemy, Ethan is forced to consider that nothing can matter more than the mission, not even the lives of those he cares about the most. You know what's funny? I read that synopsis before, and it didn't occur to me until just now when I was reading it that nothing matters more to him than, and I was going to say family in the back of my head.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare ruin it!
Listen, no, it's already ruined. I don't know if you saw my notes. This is the most Fast and
did.
Furious Mission Impossible movie there is.
Only better.
100%.
Yeah, come on.
It's not a good movie.
Come on. I read your notes. I'm with you, but come on.
It's not a good movie. All right, so this film is starring Tom Cruise and is written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie on Rotten Tomatoes. As of the recording of this podcast, it has a 96% from the critics and then 95% from the viewers. Let's see if we agree. Gentlemen, who wants to give their thread first? Their non-spoiler, thready review of Dead Reckoning. Let's
Jam has got
Okay.
and moving on.
Yes.
But to be fair, here's the thing. I have to declare. I'm going to put an asterisk.
Nick just
and
died
it's going to
inside.
lead to one of those pictures that that's basically a twit long, except in thread form. I learned. I don't know why it took me 6 movies or 7 movies. These movies just aren't for me. They've never been for me. Literally have they like it's literally. I think the 4th one was the one I liked the most because it
Ghost
had.
Protocol?
Yes, I think that one was the one that had the most personality to it, and the majority of this one is like takes stuff so seriously, but is also simultaneously so goofy, and we'll talk about that a bit more. But essentially, I also don't care about 90% of what's happening, and that's the case for most Mission Impossible movies. I just don't care. Like literally halfway through this movie, almost through any movie, I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. All I know is Tom Cruise is not happy or he's happy, and it's hard for me to engage in the action when I do not care.
Oh my god!
That's all. I'm gonna stop. I'll stop there.
I love this song. I love this song. I agree with 90% of what you said, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Danny, let's hear your toot. Let's hear your toot or your thread.
Well, being as you can't see my beautiful face today, you're going to have to make do with my beautiful toot. It gave me everything I wanted and everything I expected, and yet somehow left me feeling kind of hollow and empty.
Man,
and I think after our discussion,
You've described
we're all going to
every
agree
single
why.
Mission Impossible. You've described
no,
every
that's
Mission
not
Impossible
true.
movie.
That is objectively
have.
wrong. All right, so here
They're
I'm
all
gonna.
the same.
This is what I'm gonna
They're
do.
all
First
the
off,
same shit.
First off,
No,
the
they're not.
same shit.
Here's what-
different year.
no, you're fucking wrong. You're so
Virtual
wrong. So here's the
punch
thing.
in the face.
Here's what I'll say. First off, it's so crazy that we're fighting about something different than I thought we would be. I came in here ready for a fucking knife fight based on the early.
When have I ever
for this movie.
expressed interest in Mission Impossible, Jones?
No.
When have I
but
ever?
listen, but here's the difference. Here's the thing. Everyone is like, Tom Cruise is back to save the summer. This is the greatest. And I'm like, this movie's fucking not good. Like, not by any stretch of the imagination. And
it's lacking.
You're right, Danny. It's not as good. It's not as bad as Fast 10. But even by Mission Impossible, like, I would rather watch Mission Impossible 2, which is probably one of the most hated Mission Impossible movies there is.
No,
I would rather. I would rather watch.
No, now you're wrong. You're both wrong.
No.
You know what's funny?
Listen.
I read your notes, Jonesy.
Yeah,
and I know we're going to disagree on a fundamental aspect of this movie about what we don't like. So we're gonna not
all
like.
Right. Well, let me give you my thread. Let me give you my thread, and then we can fucking jump into this shit, and we can have a real nice fight. I'm ready. All right, so 100%, Tom Cruise brought it in this movie. Like, I enjoyed his performance as Ethan Hunt. He was all in on this film, and I was all in on his portrayal of the character. But that wasn't enough to save this movie. It has a dry plot, a lackluster villain, needless fridging, boring fucking action. I think even diehards, with the exception of Nick Dahl, would be disappointed by this film. But I think you could probably then enjoy this as listen,
dude, Nick Dahl, he's like, I'm seeing this movie 3 times this week.
I saw somebody say this was the best movie of the summer. I've seen the best movie of the summer 3 times already. That's fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah.
3 times I've seen that fucking movie. It doesn't get old. I don't want to see this movie again. I've seen every Mission Impossible film multiple times. Too many times to count, in fact.
Yep.
I will probably never watch this one again. Only to remember the context in part 2. Man. Oh, this is my toot's done. Toot's over. I'm ready.
Luckily they have a 500 character limit there. So I think you just snuck underneath the wire there.
that wasn't even a toot. I was just bitching and complaining at that point. All right, so let's jump into spoilers. And how do you guys want to do spoilers for this? Like, all right, Jammer, let's do it this way. What's the thing that you think we're going to disagree about? I know what you're going to say.
Do you? Okay, so for me, the problem I have with a lot of these movies is they're very serious and very dry. It's the moment where there's some levity to it that I really like. There were moments in this movie where they brought levity and more dynamic action to it that made me like, oh. So the chase scene that took place in Fast 10's world, that was pretty fun for most of it. Was it Rome? I don't remember the city. That was really fun. Like what I loved Haley Atwell in this movie. She was fantastic. I loved her. She was so much fun because she was like, it was very clear. She's like, she sucked at driving, and she was just like, no, you're driving. You're driving, because she was terrible at it. And then that moment where they flipped and they switched spots, so good. That was amazing. I love that scene.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
yes,
it was.
I knew that's
I'm
what
with
you
you, Jammer. I take my punch back.
Thank you. And I liked her. I liked her. Her character arc. She was the only character that I could sink my teeth into character wise. Everyone else was the same shit as each in every single movie, and I'm over it. No one grows. It doesn't matter. So she was the only thing I could glom onto. Yeah, there were parts where I'm like, oh my god, I wish she didn't just run aimlessly for no reason. I didn't understand what she was doing. I think that was more of a narrative thing than anything else.
She's a fucking child. She is. Then,
hold on.
I thought that's the thing you were gonna say. I'm not saying here oh, that was a great move. No, that was stupid. I still really liked her character a lot, and I also liked at the end where it's like, do you trust me? She's shaking her head. No.
I thought that was really funny. Nick, no, why would she trust you at this point? Not yet. Almost there, but I liked her character arc in this movie, and I liked her character. For the most part.
Is that the disagreement?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So I don't disagree with you. I don't think that she had an arc that I liked or cared about. I think she did what she could, right? The problems that I had with her were not Haley Atwell. They were how they positioned her in the film.
They were plot contrivances.
And it has everything to do with how they set her character up, right? So they fridged this woman at the beginning of the film, right? So for those who don't know,
her again.
They fridged her fucking good. So there is a woman at the beginning of the film. We don't know her name. She has no lines. And the bad guy, whose name we don't know at this point, shoots her. And this is what caused Ethan Hunt to become Ethan Hunt. What?
Wait, what? Oh, that flashback.
Jesus Christ.
Was that from another movie? What was that?
No, it's not from any it is from this fucking movie, which is what makes it so bad.
On this. Yeah, that was
okay.
That
I assumed that was something I forgot from another movie because they all blend into me.
And this is why it's so bad, because they tried to make this thing and take this guy that hasn't been in any other movie and go like, here's this mysterious character from your past that murdered somebody that you loved, your sister, your mother. I don't know who the fuck this chick is. She had no lines. And so it bothers me that they tried to use that memory. And here's what I think they're trying to do. This is what I think they're going for. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there's something about this woman that Haley Atwell, it reminds him of her. But they haven't done that work to show you what that is. Because the movie is trying to tell you.
That's what
here's why I think that that's the case. I think that's the case because what they said was this woman that you care about is going to die. One of these women that you care about is going to die. At that point, there was nothing about Haley Atwell for him to quote unquote care about more so than what we saw from Ilsa Faust.
I agree. It's definitely not more than Rebecca Ferguson.
Care more than he does for Ilsa. No way would he care more
than
he does Ilsa. No way.
That's why I think that exists so that at some point in the future, he's going to be like, you remind me of this person who we don't know. And that's why he cares about her.
This is the part where Nick Dahl comes in and goes, hey guys, did you know that they shot this movie without a script? Yes. Yes, I completely buy that.
I get the feeling, Jonesy, they're gonna make more of this magic new backstory in the second part. That's the only thing
that's not how you tell a story.
I don't know whether that was a good. Yeah, but it's not a good choice. But I get the feeling we're going to have a deeper flashback and a more of understanding of these guys' past relationship. But even I'm sitting there thinking, even if they do that, they haven't earned that to make this film count, either part one or part two, because we've got nothing about this whatsoever in any of the other films. It could have done without it. It could have worked just exactly the same. Not saying good, but it could have worked exactly the same without that. We could have had this paint by numbers villain, another female interest that he pretends to care about, but not enough. It didn't need that flashback. It's just it could have happened without it. The whole thing, like an Indiana Jones film without him, same thing would have happened without him.
It also really bothers me that part of this was the setup that got Elsa killed, because the only reason she died is for the plot to be able to tell you that these women around Ethan die. She was too good of a character to be used as an example for why Ethan fails at protecting women.
It was very, very, especially when they faked out death her at the beginning already. I'm like, yeah.
Well, and has that even happened in the films? Has that? I mean, I remember one of his colleagues got with the chip in her nose. I think it was number 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Other than that, all the females seem to have lived. He married one or close to marrying one. He also survived 3 films.
So his whole team gets killed in the first one, and then the woman that he was in love with, that he'd had sex with, that was
Tandy Newton.
Aggressive way.
No. This is the first one. John Voight. John Voight's wife.
Oh right. Yeah,
Ethan Hunt had sex with her, and then John Voight kills her at the end. Right. So that's one. Then Thandie Newton. Or Thandie Newton.
She lived.
That's an interesting story. She lived, but that was a really fucked up story, right? There's this woman that he recruits because he thinks he's recruited. Well, but hold on. He recruits her because he thinks he's getting her for her thief skills. What he does is hand her ex-boyfriend for her to get not sexually assaulted, but basically sexually assaulted.
Yeah, the whole story true, right? but
it's a gross story.
My point is that they're living.
But I'm talking about
women
protection.
Die around him thing.
I'm talking about protection, and a woman having sex with a man that she doesn't want to have sex with, who's a mass murderer. That's
also
not
very key aspect. Hold on, you're
now 3. Hold on. We're going to do the women. Hold on. 3, you're right. Woman, up the nose, death. 4, Ghost Protocol. I don't think it happens in there, but that's his wife. 5, That's when he meets Elsa. So like, it's a thing that happens.
It's not a thing. It's not a thing. Well,
the one woman
we have saw die
as this movie,
half the
as
movies.
This, hold on. As this
could have been a male or a female.
As this movie has proven, there are probably 15 other women that we can get flashbacks to that got shot that we just don't know about. So your point is moot, Danny.
I also thought, we're talking about this movie. What was frustrating to me is, as a narrative, I don't think this movie did enough to explain to me why we needed a part 2 to this story.
True.
By way of example, between Rogue Nation and Fallout, that's a part 1 and a part 2. I can very easily make the argument that Lane being the villain in Rogue Nation and then him coming back in Fallout while pulling the strings of Henry Cavill, that's Rogue Nation part 1 and part 2. And that was a much better, much tighter set of films. And I hated that. So like, I don't know if you guys saw this. I put the lengths of the movies. This is the longest Mission Impossible film. This one's 163 minutes.
Felt like it.
So I was looking at my watch the entire time.
The first, actually, when up until like the scenes, up until the opening credits, I was like, oh no, that took forever to get there. Like I literally wasn't engaged until the funny scenes during the chase scene in Rome. Was not engaged until that moment. I do like the train sequence at the end. I like the continuously falling trains. I thought was fun. Yeah, I know you hated that.
That was not funny or interesting. Look, that's the kind of scene that you would put in a Mission Impossible parody, where like one car falls and then another car falls and then another car falls, and these motherfuckers are slipping, sliding.
What's wrong with it? That's so.
I just told you it's a parody of itself.
Why?
And
no,
what do you mean why?
Why is it a parody?
So in the first Mission Impossible, you had a train scene with John Voight and Ethan Hunt. Much better done. Wait, you're asking me why it's a parody?
Boring as I'm sorry, you're
right.
But
you're asking me why it's a parody.
You're right.
It's a parody because so this film had lots of callbacks to the original. You've got the train fight at the end with knives, so just like this one. You've got sleight of hand with Krieger and the Knockless. You've got that was a great scene in the first one. I fucking love that.
No, I was just when he started doing the magic trick, I was like, oh my god, what are we watching right now? What's going on?
No, but so I appreciated it as a callback to the first one. You've also got I understand you're very upset. Call back to the first one. You've also got they just kept doing it. So when I say parody of itself, you had a scene just like this in the first one. And what I mean is this one is just a worse version of what happened in the first one, especially because when you think about how he was fighting on that train, like you might not like one, you might think one is boring. I found this to be a worse version, especially when it starts slipping and sliding on the grease and the water, and then the fire comes.
I thought that was great,
and then the piano falls. I'm like, fuck that.
I think you were bored in the movie at this point, Jonesy, because it's not.
I was. It was so.
I thought it was fun because for me,
and here's the note that I have at that point. Wait.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you go. But here's the note that I have at that point. At this point, I'm being critical because I'm looking at my watch and I'm ready to leave. That's the note that I have at that moment.
And that's definitely what it sounds like, because that's not a parody of that. That was a fun action sequence that had a lot of things about it that kept you on tenterhooks and how they're going to get through. I knew the parachute or the wing was going to come into play at some point, but I found that whole sequence fun. I certainly didn't think it's a parody.
One thing I think that Brad Bird brought into the franchise with Ghost Protocol, a little bit of extra clumsiness and character-driven action sequences that make it more palatable for someone like me. Because up until that point, well, I guess the second one doesn't count, but up until that point, it was just so serious and just weird, and not weird. It was just so serious and boring. And then
I think the second one's even very self-serious.
Yeah, self-serious, but it was like it feels like a parody still because it's so. It's so itself. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's so whatever. But yeah, the fourth one where I feel like they gave Tom Cruise a bit more personality, and when he fights making mistakes and things like that, making things a little bit more awkward. Almost, this is a bad comparison. You know how like Jackie Chan fights where it's like awkward at moments that he has to like pivot based on that? It's like those things. And that's like like the slipping and the sliding because the thing has this thing, like it making them not look as flawless as they're fighting. That makes the fights and the action scenes more interesting to me.
Yeah.
And
More natural,
so I like
more real world, more that's what would happen because nothing would happen perfectly.
Right.
Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face kind of thing. Then
so you're telling me that this Roger Rabbit bullshit where the fire's starting and the grease is on the ground and all like that's more natural.
That was
that's
fun.
Fuck you guys.
No, that's just them dealing with the
fun.
environment rather than just just painting the numbers. I like the alley fight sequence. I thought that was something original we haven't seen.
I like that. I did like that.
Yep.
But you know what that makes me think of? They wasted the shit out of Palm. So I always mess up her name, but I don't understand.
Hold on, I felt a specific way. I felt a specific way about her.
Let's hear a specific way.
I felt like, what is this 2000? The way that they are like dressing her up and having her like do things. It's like, it felt like she was a henchman in a 2000s, like early 2000s movie. Like she was almost just kind of there for like set dressing and to be fetishized for most of the movie.
Yeah, she came off like an early Bond villain, almost like a Grace Jones type, where there's just like lots of yelling and punching and kicking and screaming, but no dialogue, no lines, no development. And for me, it's disappointing when you have Palm Clement, whatever. Until you have like Palm Clementieff, who you've seen in Guardians 2 and Guardians 3 do action, do comedy, do drama. And she's reduced to like the role that Batista played in Spectre. I'm just confused. I get that she might come back for the next one, but in this, it felt like a waste. It feels like we're being set up for the next one. Like, hey, you don't need to know who this woman in the black and white thing is. Wait till the next one. Hey, Palm's going to come back. We've got a pulse. It's okay. Wait for the next one. Fuck you. Entertain me now. Sorry.
There's a lot of this movie. It's fun.
Let me tell you something.
I came into this. I feel like a lot of the same problems I had with other Mission Impossible movies, I feel like were heightened in this one. Oh, we didn't even talk about, you mentioned in your tweet or your thread, the boring villain. Or also, there were definitely the scene in the club. I literally just leaned over to my wife and I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on right now in this movie. These people are all saying things and looking at each other meaningfully. What the hell is happening? I don't know. They keep saying the entity. What is the entity? Who is this other random guy who's supposed to be the villain who I don't understand his motives? I don't understand Gabriel. Who he is. Is he a real person?
Messiah.
What is happening?
The Dark Messiah.
Like I thought for the longest time, I thought he was like a representation of the entity. What is he? What is this guy?
Life model decoy.
Some sort of really good hologram.
Life model decoy.
Yeah. He's a T-1004.
So to me, that ties to a couple of things. Did you guys see Westworld season 3?
No.
Fuck. That's why the show got canceled. So that, like, the plot of Westworld season 3 is this.
Because Jam and I didn't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Because specifically the two of you, like, well, they're not watching this.
I mean, to be fair, I was late to the game on the first season, and I didn't even finish the first season. So,
yeah, I don't understand why he existed. I feel like I have to qualify this by saying I love all of the Mission Impossible movies. Like, this is the first one where I'm like, what am I watching? I was just so frustrated. Oh,
I can understand your frustration. Although I don't dislike it as much as you, I understand why you're frustrated, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that was on the notes. Just not as vehemently as you.
Well, here's what happened. I was kind of off kilter from the beginning. That scene where they're talking to the director of national intelligence, what was that?
Yeah, exposition central.
But it wasn't just exposition central. It was like weirdly framed and weirdly acted, where they were using Mission Impossible 1 camera angles to like angle their faces weird as they're saying these weird lines. One person starts a thing, another person finishes the sentence.
Yep.
And I could not re-engage after I saw. I was like, what? I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
I did like that Angela Bassett.
Why it's going on.
I was disappointed in that. I remember thinking to myself, well, I don't like the story, but at least the filmmaking will be good. And I was like, the filmmaking wasn't that great. It was fine. It was serviceable, but it wasn't like amazing. It was no Oppenheimer or what I assume Oppenheimer is going to be.
Yeah, I don't get it. I could keep going. I need someone to stop me because
I
all
know.
I'm going to do is rant and rave about.
So
Stop,
go ahead
Jammer.
and stop. So I want to hear your letter grade because we haven't talked about letter grade, and then we'll hop out to the news. So what is your letter grade, Jonesy? Because we didn't
It's a
give
C.
letter grades at the beginning.
It's
Jones
a C.
got to go first.
C.
Already said C.
It's a C.
What about you, Danny?
C plus, brother. C plus for me. I'm with Jonesy on it, just not as in such a passionate way, but it's not what I wanted, but I'm glad I watched it. C plus.
I'm giving it a C.
Yeah.
There you go.
Average than the motherfucker. Like,
Make sure someone make sure someone checks on Nick. Make sure someone checks on Nick after
he's gonna love it. What do we have to check on him for? He's gonna love it
for your guys' after he watches this.
Yeah, all right, gotcha. Yeah.
I see him tonight.
Making a joke about.
I see him tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
it
He's gonna be like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
This was like
I
literally.
can't
I feel
get
bad.
over.
I know he's excited about it, but between Indy and this, these like those are the movies he was just like all about, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna see Indy. I don't care about Indy. And this movie I would not have seen if it wasn't for the podcast.
You know what's bad?
So
I remember
throwing
when
it
I
out
saw
there.
the trailer for this. When I saw the trailer for this, I did this, and I think I told you guys. I was like, "This is the first Mission Impossible trailer where I don't feel anything, and I don't know what that is."
I felt that about all of them.
No, I love them all. Man, when Henry Cavill, when he fucking reloads his arms, it's
That was
fucking
pretty dope.
fantastic. It's fucking awesome. You guys ready? Let's talk about some stuff I like. Let's
I
talk
think the
about
fact
more
that we're
Hollywood
ready
stuff.
to move on already shows everybody
fuck
another
on.
reason how we feel about this film.
All right, check out the next Mission Impossible. It's going to drop in June of
Dun,
next year.
Dun, 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 dun,
I won't
Do it,
accept that
dun,
mission,
do it.
except for the podcast. All right, so we got some news. Let's talk about some more casting. We got some more casting
Wait,
news.
yeah,
James
that's
Gunn.
interesting.
What? Yeah,
was
James
just
Gunn.
singing,
He's throwing
go
it out there. We got some more. Stop singing. If you're gonna sing, you gotta do the. Are you doing the thing? You gotta do the thing. All right. So Isabella Merced is gonna play Hawkgirl. Eddie.
Sorry, you just said it very. You nicked all that name. Just
Isabella
Isabella
Merced?
Merced. You said
I
it
say,
weird.
Merced?
I apologize. You said it weird. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
You know what? You're the newsie. Introduce the goddamn story. You say the names however the fuck you want. You go. You do the thing.
I have a banana in my mouth.
That's what she
It's your
said.
fucking fault. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got Isabella Merced, Eddie Gathegi, and Nathan Fillion. who
There's
have
no
joined
Gar.
the cast.
There's no Gar in Theggy.
I don't know what that means.
You added a R before the T.
Oh, Eddie. I said Eddie Gathegi.
Mm-mm.
All
Unless it
right,
was the
Eddie
banana.
Garthegi. Eddie Garthegi. You were just listening to me deep throw the banana. That's what it was. That was just a gargle. So, Superman Legacy is a movie that many of us are looking forward to. Or if you're following on Twitter, that everyone wants James Gunn to get fired over. He breathes wrong, and everyone wants him fired. He expresses a single opinion. Everyone wants James Gunn fired. This is a new reason why everyone wants James Gunn fired, because
Do they really?
we got, yeah.
Really?
I mean, this may seem more. This once again.
I'm sorry. You do
I
your
said this
thing.
on
I'm
Threads.
shocked.
I said this on Threads because people always find ways to bitch and complain, and apparently my personal interaction on Twitter has led to me always having hashtag restore the Snyderverse, hashtag fire James Gunn, and other similar hashtags constantly trend for me. And these are some of the moments. Well, I'll tell you in a second. Are you gonna give me the confused ass look? I'll
No,
get there.
I'm ready. I'm not going to
Okay.
speak.
So these characters, they're going to be playing. Oh my gosh, specifically Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, and Green Lantern. Specifically, Guy Gardner, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
Guy
correct.
Gardner is the
I don't think you
Lantern
said
that
Nathan
he's gonna
Fillion,
be
but go
playing.
ahead.
Yeah, I did. You were too busy fucking loading up that jab against me, saying Garthegi instead of Gathegi. So
There's
That's
actually
probably what
another one
happened.
too. So there's one more. I don't know if you saw that. Anthony Carrigan was cast as Metamorpho.
There you go. Well, I mean that further leans into it. I think this was another thing. So they're playing other characters within the DC universe. So, like I said, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, and then whatever you just said, another version. And everyone's being like, "I thought this was a Superman movie. This is BS. He's bringing all these C-level characters to bring it to da 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 da."
Really?
Yeah, that's what people are complaining. Yes. Does this surprise you?
Doesn't surprise
Yes.
me. First I heard of it, doesn't surprise me.
There's also a group that's complaining about him using Fillion, whatever.
Oh,
Nathan.
yeah, because he already used Fillion as like the detachable.
No,
whatever.
they're get this. They're mad because he keeps casting his friends as if lots of other actors don't, or directors and stuff don't do that. As if Christopher Nolan doesn't do that, Kevin Smith doesn't do that, Judd Apatow doesn't do that, Joss Whedon doesn't. It's a dumb complaint, but that is one. It
is a dumb complaint.
Let me tell you fucking incel something that may or may not listen to this podcast. All of life is who you know. Everything you do.
Yeah.
Everything.
Networking.
Jesus fucking Christ. I'm sorry. You still going?
I gave the news. So
Danny,
Danny, react.
Banana. Do you have more? Are you more? Okay.
I am reacting visually, and I keep forgetting you can't see me. It's like my great face for radio.
Hey, Danny's giving a thumbs up to everything today. He loved Mission Impossible. He loves this news. He's gonna love the strike.
Nick Dahl, everybody.
I think well, you weren't here the last time we talked about the Superman himself casting Jammer, and when I was telling Jonesy about it, I am so not completely au fait with these. I want to see them in a trailer. I want to see them in some part of the character, etc. I can't really formulate any opinion one way or the other until I see them on screen doing their thing. And obviously, Mr. Gunn has seen them. They've been into some sort of casting procedure, and he sees in them the characters that he wants to put on screen. So at the moment, all I can say is, okay, well, show me what they got. Show me the movie. I need to see something for this. This is, and because I'm not so familiar with the DC world, etc., the characters themselves, I'm not au fait enough with to even know whether or not they look, sound, or whatever, or sorry, how they look or sound or whatever. So a very boring response to your question, Jammer, but I don't care until I see them on screen doing their thing. Show me the money.
I mean, I think that's a big problem with fandom today. We all felt it. We all wanted to say it when he said, "Show me the movie."
Show me the movie.
And yeah. Where people feel like fandom's awful. Fandoms are awful sometimes, where everyone feels like they're an expert. They know exactly how the DC universe needs to be executed. They know exactly what Superman is a character. They know exactly, like when after Marvel's started getting ramped up, everyone was like, "Oh, you can't have a team up without having each of the characters introduced in their own movies first." And I was like, "Yeah, you can. Like, you don't need to, like, everyone feels like things need to be done a certain way. It's like, no, it could be done differently. Just give the filmmakers an opportunity to execute something differently." And James Gunn hasn't done anything that would, in my opinion, inspire doubt. I mean, you're allowed to say, "Hey, I don't know because of these reasons," but like, he's done great things. Like, he took Peacemaker. I remember not giving the smallest of shits about whether or not like the show was on. And I was just like, all right, the show's on. I'm going to give this a try. I was dragged in by the first scene. And I was like, okay, this is funny. Yeah. This is funny. Like, this is entertaining at least. And then I was dragged in I was kept there by just the sadness of Peacemaker breaking into his own trailer. And I'm like, oh, this guy's got things to deal with, visiting his freaking Nazi father. And just like, I'm like, oh, you really learn to care about him as a character. And no matter, all these goofy characters that we see, no matter what, like, he's going to know how to get us to care about these characters. So, like you said, show me the movie. We'll see. It's great. These are, actually, I don't know anything about Eddie Gathegi or the other guy that you mentioned who's playing another character. I don't know about those people.
Eddie Gathegi has get me saying it like he's from fucking Spain. Let me tell you this. Blurs, Black Nerds, have a bone to pick with how he was cast. And if you look at him, you'll remember him from New Class, X-Men New Class.
Yes.
He played Darwin.
Darwin.
Yeah.
I liked his character
Darwin-
before he got killed.
What is
Immediately.
Darwin's power? What's Darwin's power?
Okay, I disagree with this one because to me, evolution takes a long time and it happens so quickly
that's
that
not
he
how
couldn't
his
adapt
power
quickly
works.
enough.
That's
Don't
not how his
look at
power
me,
works.
dude.
That's not
I'm
how his
just saying
power
that's
supposed
what
to
I
work.
saw based on
Yes.
what I watched in the movie.
Evolution in the
I-
scientific sense, that's how it works.
I don't
But
care.
that's not how his
enough
power
to
is
have
supposed
his
to work in the
arguments.
comic book. I'm not arguing.
Anyways.
I'm just telling you how black nerds feel about it. They'll never forgive that fucking movie for that shit. So I'm really looking
That's fair.
forward to seeing him as Mr. Terrific. Is it my turn? Can I say how I feel about this casting? Okay.
Go for it.
Go,
So
Joe.
like I heard what you guys said. I'm definitely more excited about this, not necessarily from the perspective of who they cast, but what it means for the movie. This to me speaks to the scope and scale of a flick that I wasn't expecting. Up until this point, Superman movies have been mostly solitary affairs, right? We've gotten to see Superman, we've gotten to see his villains. Except for what we saw in the Snyderverse, this is the first time we're getting to see him play off of other DC heroes. And what I love about that is there are lots of people that don't like Superman generally. And what I think this gets us is the ability to see why he is who he is and why he's so special and why he's so great within the context of that universe, right? Especially when you look at somebody like him versus Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is a prick. And I'm not saying like that in a bad way. I like him. He's an asshole. But getting to see him contrast with Superman is going to be awesome. And so for me, the scope and the scale of the movie, even if they're only in the movie for a few minutes, I think that really helps the lens through which we will see Superman. And that means a lot. And that changes what I thought Gunn was going to do with this story and makes me more excited for it.
Fair.
That's all I got.
Fair?
Any last thoughts, Danny?
No, that's fair. Thanks, Jonesy.
All right. Strike. I keep wanting to add more to this. Like, it's an opening line of Star Wars. What was the one that was the third one, right? Episode 3, where it's like war. And
The
then
Emperor
it has the whole
Speaks.
stuff. The Emperor Speaks, something like that. But I
Zaslav
have nothing more to add
Speaks.
to it at that point. Zaslav Speaks. So
It's the most animated in
strikes are
Hollywood, I heard.
happening. Strikes plural. I know for the longest time, how long has it been since the writer's strike started? A while.
11 weeks.
11 weeks. Jeez, that's almost 3 months. Wait, it's almost 3 months at this point. And I was like, wait, that's not right. There's 3 weeks in a month. I was like, wait, no, there's not. There's 3. What am I thinking? So yeah, almost 3 months since the strike has happened, and we're rolling into another strike. SAG-AFTRA has officially decided to go on strike, leading to, some pretty noteworthy things such as the actors from Oppenheimer having to leave mid-premiere because they're no longer allowed to promote their movies.
Wow.
So here from Fran Drescher, he says, who is the president of the SAG-AFTRA, whatever. She says, what happens here is important because what is happening to us is happening in all fields of labor by means of when employers make Wall Street and greed their priority, and they forget about the essential contributors that make the machine run. If we don't stand tall now, we are all going to be in trouble. We are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines. And there's another quote that I don't have because I couldn't find it, but I read it somewhere where essentially she talked about they're working off of contracts from the 1960s. And that did not take into account the ability to
streaming,
replicate someone's voice, replicate someone's likeness, do all sorts of things to basically circumnavigate the idea of actors. Kind of a similar thing. I mean, different, but similar to what the writers are writing for. The fact that, it's different, but essentially it's machines and AI taking over, but it's different enough to where I don't feel comfortable lumping it completely together. But essentially we're fighting against machines and how they have changed they have changed the landscape so that we're essentially worthless. Writers are worthless, actors are worthless, and the fight needs to happen to guarantee their value in the system. Otherwise, they will be run out, and it's just going to be a terrible landscape for talent on both writers and actors.
Sorry, I cannot help but notice the direct, like almost word for word concerns that unions had on factory floors when machines were taking that over. It's so interesting because arts was something that one would have thought for the longest time
would have been safe.
There's no way a machine can take the job of this type of subjective artwork, writing and voice acting even and so on. But like I said, the words that they're used, the words you just, especially the way you explained it, it literally you could go back in time and listen to factory workers concerned about robots coming in to build cars. It is insane.
It's weird because for me, in my mind, I'm like, okay, the difference is, I guess, the type of industry. Like, they're making widgets there. Here, they're making, I guess, products and art, quote unquote art, however you want to define it. And they're essentially the thing that we thought that enough of us would get replaced in those, factory type jobs and other jobs that we would be able to just spend time on art. And now art is getting replaced. And now I'm just like, okay, where is that universal basic income that we need in order to because pretty soon AI and machines are going to be able to do everything, and we're just going to be sitting here with thumbs up our asses, not going to be able to do whatever, and we're not going to be able to work.
I want that. You think you're going to actually
no, don't get me wrong. I want that.
I
want that. Yes. Hold on. Yes, I want it. Hold on. Stop, Kyle. Quiet. No, what I want is the problem is if we do that, if we are sitting there doing nothing, which, I'm all for doing nothing, we're not going to get paid for nothing unless something radically changes in our system. That's the problem.
I voted for Yang.
Living is expensive. Don't worry. I did not vote for Yang. I did not waste a vote on Yang, but, I completely get your point. You're talking, Kyle, but we can't hear you.
I didn't waste a vote on Yang.
Oh, he knows that. Okay. Kyle's like, I know you can't hear me, but I just got to get it out. So I'm going to talk as if you can hear me.
It's just really funny that people think that if you're no longer needed to produce for society, and this isn't like people get marched off and like offed, but if you don't need workers, there's things that are going to be done to make sure less workers are born. And this whole idea that we're going to produce or progress ourselves out of labor, yeah, we will eventually, but we're also going to progress ourselves out of population, because if you don't need it, then only the haves, and that's only the haves that have right now, will get to stick around. They're the only ones that will get to breed, and because none of us will be needed. So it is a frightening thought to have people on Earth that aren't needed, if that makes sense, because once that happens, you're just a liability on those that are comfortable, if that makes sense. So
that's a dark turn. I just thought it wasn't going to get more Black Mirror episodes.
It is actually a very very scary thought. So it's funny when people are like, oh, we're going to progress our way and we're all going to be able to do art and stuff. No, you won't. They won't need you for that, and you are a liability on the resources that are left. So yeah, AI and machines it is actually getting frighteningly scary, and that's not like a generation thing. That's like 3, 4, 5 generations down the road. But yeah, it's scary stuff.
I doubt it. I think it's like 2 generations or less. But I'll be gone either way. Yeah, this is gonna. It's good. We're at the exponential part. It's happening. I would be surprised if it doesn't happen within the next 30 years.
Things are happening so fast now. So fast.
Yeah.
What's your question, Jammer?
I forgot. This is we're talking about the WGA and
we're not the babies. Yeah.
So with this happening, Jonesy,
do
you think that studios are going to be more likely to sign something now that they have 2 guilds on strike?
I don't know. So it's kind of fascinating, right? We've got Bob Iger, who has just had his contract extended. And it's this idea that he was brought in to, well, not brought into. He's talked about how much money they're just burning, right? And how they're not doing well with that. You have David Zaslav talking about how much money they're burning. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because there is that report, right, that they might just wait them out. And I think they have the money to do it. That'll be the interesting thing. Like, they've been bitching and moaning about how much money they don't have. I think they can just wait them out. Because I can't imagine a studio signing away the ability to utilize AI. Google is utilizing AI. The military is utilizing AI. China is utilizing AI, and China is going to be using it in their film industry. Hollywood's biggest competitor right now is China. And so I would have a hard time believing that they're going to be looking across the Pacific and just thinking like, we can do without the technological advantages because the writers and the actors don't want us to utilize them. Now, that might mean that they need to come together and find a better way to negotiate about exactly what they can and can't do with AI. But the wholesale, like, no, you can't use this in your process, is not going to fly for the studios. And so until they can find a way to figure that part out, they're just going to wait.
I'm willing to not have any content for a long time. Give me 2 years of zero content. I'll keep myself preoccupied.
It's always anime.
Can I ask you a question about that? Yeah, let me ask you a question about that.
So,
are you willing, because you're a writer, you don't write movies,
yeah,
but you do write. Are you willing to not watch any films or television to support this? Because there's still stuff that's been filmed and it's in the can, and these studios are going to put this stuff out. So there will be some residual revenue that they're going to get based off of subscriptions, which is part of Fran Drescher's argument, right? So they're talking about contracts that have existed since the 60s that don't take into account subscriptions and just kind of the locked-in nature of how we watch TV now. Because at the time when that was negotiated, you had ad revenue, you had reruns that would appear on different networks, right? Networks could buy and compete for those reruns, and those people would still get residuals. That doesn't exist that same way anymore. They're locked into Netflix, they're locked into Hulu, they're locked into Disney Plus. And so that contract doesn't work that way anymore. So my question for you is, now that we have all of this stuff that's filmed, are you just going to not watch it?
That's a good question. At some point, I might have to put my money where my mouth is. Am I willing to? I'm not going to like it, but maybe. We'll see how things go. Like if there's a movement, if someone out there who cares more than I do is like, hey, let's band together and do this, I'll just be like, sure, I guess. I don't know what I'd be able to do on the podcast here other than just, regale you with tales of living a normal life.
I'm always curious, where does that line get drawn, right? Because we've had conversations on this podcast. We've been kind of talking about this when we talk about crunch. Every time we talk about what's happening in these FX studios, we're talking about unfair labor practices, basically. And so we're kind of talking about that again now. When we talk about it with regard to animation studios, we're talking about that. When we talk about with regard to video games. So as these laborers are doing these things, what are we willing to do? Or I'm asking you, what are you willing to do?
Well, I guess my question here's I'm willing to cancel some subscription services. I'm willing to not go to the theaters. But at the same time, I'm also in favor of not needlessly suffering. If I just decide right now, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore, nothing changes. If I just decide that I'm not going to do this anymore, I'd rather be a part of a movement that actually is striving for a specific change. But I'm too lazy to set that movement up. So it's one of those things where, I'll support it. I don't have time to dedicate to it and spearhead it, but I also don't want to needlessly suffer.
You realize every entertainment medium is under attack by corporations right now. Music, so streaming services, they are gutting artists. Same thing we're talking about with movies, television, video games. It's all connected. And the more these corporations merge and come together, the more power they have. Huh?
Kindle Unlimited.
I mean, there was that time when Amazon and Apple were accused of collusion in book sales, right? Because they were the pricing structure. So the more power these corporations have, that's what we're getting. And the only way that wheel gets broken is not with actors marching in the streets. The next step has to be us. Us as the consumers.
Yeah. Well, Jonesy, organize it and I will join.
Buddy, I am a bullet catcher. That's not my fight.
I mean, it's not my fight either, but like I'm willing to support it if there's a movement. Like I said, I'm not gonna put forth the effort and be like, hey, let's do this, because that's too much time that I don't have. But if that were to happen, I guess that give me more opportunity to read, so that's a positive. Anyways, anyone else have anything to say before we close out?
No, I find it fascinating listening.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've been awfully quiet, Danny.
Oh no, I've been very animated. You just haven't seen it.
He's giving thumbs up to the studios.
Fucking corporate shill, you scab. All right. I realized today that reality TV show contestants or folks, they're scabs. I never thought about that until today. It's fascinating.
I don't think they're technically actors, so.
Well, but you know what I mean? They're like within the context.
They're supporting the system.
Yeah.
They're crossing the picket line.
That's right. They're scabs. Man, I feel bad. Now I got to do this Mission Impossible closing for a Mission Impossible movie.
Is it going to be mission not accomplished, unaccomplished, ill-accomplished?
Oh, that's not my line. That's not my line. You can, however you want to slice it. So
we're not going to say it. I think that sends a clear message. We will not say it.
Man, so sick. So sick, this movie. Dear listener, if you like what you heard, and you might be in that 95% that like this movie, so you might not have. Do all the socials.
We're clearly in the minority here.
We're in the minority report. Do all the socials. Like, rate, comment, share, subscribe. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, jump on the Discord and tell us how wrong we are, right? Like, I want to know. If you liked Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, come and tell me on Discord. What was the thing that you liked about this film? Because I'm at a loss. But yeah, we'll be back next week with what? What are we doing? Barbieheimer? Are we doing a double feature? Or are we doing just one?
We're not doing a double feature.
We're doing a double feature. I know Danny.
No, we're not.
Danny's gonna do a double bubble
feature.
Danny's gonna do a double bubble with me.
I'd rather do Barbie.
Yeah, double bubble. So yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna.